And coming in at number 5, SCP-1750.
Autobots, roll out.
Reptilian Transformers? Sounds terrifying already. This animalistic ancient consciousness has the power to possess petroleum-based vehicles, anything from automobiles to propeller-powered aircraft. With an SCP class of Keter, this autonomous consciousness seems to have breached special containment procedures recently and is moving quite fast and quite furious. The Foundation is collaborating with overseas governments, automotive manufacturers, and environmental protection agencies to advance the development and understanding of this phenomenon. Mobile Task Force MU-13 is working with the Department of Analytics to investigate and neutralize 2 vehicles and petroleum-based machines that may be affected by SCP-1750 as we speak. Affected vehicles should be delivered to Foundation Disposal Site 93 for recycling and containment. I wonder if the Foundation has a back parking lot, just a bunch of haunted Supras. I don't know. SCP-1750 vehicles animated by the phenomenon display animal-like behaviors with similarities to serpents, crocodiles, and birds. Terrifying. Possibly a Jurassic consciousness. There does not seem to be any underlying pattern or cause to the phenomenon. Exorcisms specialized for reptilian ectomorphs have proven the most effective at neutralizing SCP-1750, which also end naturally once the vehicle runs out of a fuel source. Okay, that's a good sign. Just needs oil and blood to survive. It is hypothesized that 1750 is the result of dinosaur-based ectomorphs inhabiting the fuel in the vehicles from a fossil fuel energy source based in a prehistoric energy. This would similarly explain why SCP-1750 has not occurred in electric or hydraulic powered machines. There have been 5 examples of interest as of now, and the agency is actively pursuing the recovery of 2 vehicles. SCP-1750 is actively possessing an oil tanker currently submerged in the Atlantic Ocean off the Gulf Coast of Mexico near the floor of the ocean. The oil tanker has apparently been witnessed showing characteristics of shark-like or croc-like behavior, hunting whales and other large predators. Imagine just a giant megalodon submarine with teeth? Yeah, I'll leave that one up to the professionals. I'm also not really a strong swimmer. Okay, so Transformers, cool. Or Decepticons, more like. And coming in at number 4, SCP-58. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Well, let's hope not. This next one sounds like it could cause a heart attack just talking about it. And no, I'm not talking about your ex. I'm talking about SCP-58, or better known as the Heart of Darkness. Sounds like something you'd find in Zelda. This SCP has recently been contained and returned by authorities to the Foundation's premises. Thank God. This Keter-class anomaly is a large, inanimate bovine heart with various arthropod-like appendages and tentacles. I'm sorry, what does it have? It's highly hostile to all forms of life, and when it was discovered, had decimated its way through an entire town. Heartbreak City, huh? While also killing hundreds of individuals in its wake, it was eventually stopped after being pinned under masonry from the building that it had collapsed on top of it. Given the Keter-class designation due to the extreme difficulty containing it, with it orchestrating various attempts and even some successful containment breaches, the Heart of Darkness is a slippery one to handle. Large in its size with 4 legs, 4 tentacles of unknown length, and a stinger, the heart can move on its own. And pretty damn fast. The tentacles are covered in razor-sharp spines and can also be used as a whip at a distance of about 10.5 feet. At speeds of a minimum of 200 miles per hour, this SCP is highly resilient to trauma and extremely vicious, and will use every opportunity to escape. A bullet is almost as fast as this thing. No, you heard it right. In short bursts, it is capable of movement, both horizontal and vertical. It has the ability to accelerate to full speed in less than 2 seconds. It has been shown to use its tentacles for increased leverage and stability, as well as using them to pull itself to other surfaces at high speeds. SCP-58 possesses the ability to speak, although scientists are unable to figure out where the sounds are being made and transported from. Its voice is that of an elderly British male with a slight lisp and deep voice. SCP-58 talks constantly, regardless of conditions, even when it's attacking. 58's voice and pace of speech remain unchanged. Terrifying. Speeches made by 58 lack any concrete relations to events, persons, or exterior locations. I wonder if he sings. Hey, do you know Closer to the Heart by Rush? No? Just asking. Thankfully, this SCP has recently been contained, and the Heart of Darkness is being held at an unmarked location. Whew. Coming in at number 3, we have SCP-306. This next case reminds me of Dr. Kurt Connor's lizard in Spider-Man. Maybe this is where Stan Lee got his inspiration from. At first, this SCP seems harmless, even cute, though appearing to resemble a frog or toad in nature. This phenomenon is actually a fungus. 306 can infect humans through inhalation of spores or by skin-to-skin contact. Sounds like another pandemic to me. Initial symptoms of infection can include coughing and sneezing and skin lesions. Okay, so far not so bad. Lesions caused by 306 display to become warts and reach full size after approximately 2 days. Lesions that fall from the body of infected subjects are light enough to be carried by wind and capable of spreading 306 spores for years to come. That makes it a little hard to contain, no? SCP-306 hosts have an appearance similar to amphibians, but correspond to no known species. SCP-306 was discovered in Louisiana in a swampy area when locals reported a colony of unknown amphibious humanoid creatures coupled with a string of unexplained disappearances. 306 appears to infect mainly humans, however has been shown to grow in and on nearly every biological matter. Autopsies of deceased 306 hosts have revealed that internal structures remain morphologically similar to human organs following amphibian metamorphosis. That sentence is probably the most horrible thing I've ever said out loud. Basically, this bacteria will turn you slowly into an amphibian while keeping you somewhat human-like a half human, half frog. Warm and cold-blooded at the same time. Hazmat teams are to remove and examine personnel for signs of infection. Infected personnel are to be quarantined, affected areas to be sterilized. Any items making physical contact with infected subjects or 306 residue are to be incinerated immediately. All water and sewer systems are to be sealed, and preventing SCP-306 from infecting any large body of water is an Alpha class priority. Makes you think if the planet was once ruled by dinosaurs or just a mutated case of 306 has gone wrong. You tell me. Number 2. SCP-679. This next one is a highly infectious one and very transmittable, and I felt that it deserved to be on this list of SCPs that have had a history of escaping due to its sporadic and contagious qualities. SCP-679 is a pathogen-spread fungal infection related to an unknown Aspergillus species, discovered in Florida firstly recently among the homeless population. This highly infectious organism attacks the eyes, optical nerves, sinus, and eventually the brain, leaving only black tentacle-like receptacles outside of the face and eyes. In early stages, subjects complain of entopic phenomena and eye hallucinations. Hosts are subject to horrific visions. Irritated, itchy eyes resembling pink eyes reported. Subjects then report seeing tiny bright dots moving rapidly in their field of vision similar to floaters after staring at a wall or screen for too long. After about a week of exposure, the sclera turns black and the subject loses vision completely, rendering them blind. Small ulcerations then appear in the corners of the eyes after a day, and this causes the vitreous humor to begin leaking out, having the appearance of thick, black tears. This is basically venom attacking your eyes in a black, thick alien goop, is it not? Okay, that's 2 Spider-Man references, Kyle. Knock it off. After days of leaking, the eyes begin to rot entirely within the skull, a process sped up by the fungus and excruciatingly painful for the host. At this time, the fungus becomes mobile, and individual threads and tentacles gain mobility around the face and eyes. Guys? They move around the subject's face in seemingly random patterns, and once the fungus begins moving on its own, subjects report their vision returning. But how can they see if they don't have eyes? The fungus appears to have photosensitive cells as well as a poorly understood ability to interface with optic nerves and brain cells. Subjects begin to use vision in very different ways, and in some cases even say their vision is enhanced, seeing more spectrums of color and shape. And this is the scary part. Whenever a human with normal, uncontaminated eyes enters the SCP-679's field of vision, subjects experience terrifying hallucinations, all of which seem to drive the host closer and closer to the possible new host. Once a new host is in range, the mycelia reach out and grab the uninfected human's eyes and latch onto the new face. That's terrifying. Like just reaching out from your face to another face trying to find a new host. Basically just trying to find a new set of eyes to feed on. Treatment has been limited by time, and only persons infected within the incubation time have a chance of cauterizing and surgery. The organism is highly contagious and escapes via security constantly. Okay, so who are we supposed to call if we find these things? Like, someone's got tentacles out of their face running down the street like Beetlejuice. I need to know who I'm calling. Is there an area code? And coming in at number 1, SCP-1233. This last one makes me scratch my head. I've looked at some of the anomalous space data in the past couple years and have correlated my own homework into some terrifying discoveries. SCP-1233 is a humanoid entity of unknown origin which visually resembles an individual wearing an EMU-2 type spacesuit with clear visors and attached vehicular propulsion jetpacks. The equipment and suit worn by 1233 exhibits a number of anomalous properties. The suit itself has shown durability far exceeding that of a standard spacesuit. Anomaly has had firearms, anti-tank munitions, landmines, white phosphorus munitions, and in one instance total submersion in magma without sustaining any observable damage or decrease in functionality. The suit material, although physically based on NASA engineering, is made out of a material alien to our known universe at this time. 1233's physical strength is correspondingly anomalous. It has demonstrated the ability to lift and throw objects weighing up to 60,000 pounds and can do so repeatedly without showing an external sign of fatigue in defiance of multiple physical laws. This is why this subject is not only unattainable, it's physically impossible to host such an anomaly against its will. 1233 is capable of communicating through a loudspeaker installed in its suit, and does so in a loud, grandiloquent, and declamatory male voice, demonstrating fluency in multiple human languages, and adjusts its speech to conform with whatever language is most commonly spoken by the populace. Sounds like one of those gods our ancients were telling us about, no? Its statements are generally coherent in structure, but are frequently ramblings irrelevant to the present simulation and lacking context. Basically the ramblings of a drunk Superman. Although the phenomena only known as SCP-1233 is rendered harmless and almost friendly, the destruction caused by its simple nature of living can be quite nuclear. The anomaly is usually seen by radar and observatories venturing our atmosphere every 4 to 5 years with a trajectory from the moon. The anomaly claims that its visits are driven by curiosity and status of the galaxy. Okay, so that sounds pretty helpful. Guys at Green Lantern, Satellite Observation Network Argos 1 is to enter Priority 2 High Alert status when Argos 2 detects SCP-1233 in the upper thermosphere. An automated response from any nearby covert facility and disinformation mobile task force will be dispatched to the population center closest to 1233's descent trajectory. After the entity's departure from Earth's orbit, all appearances of damages caused by 1233 are to be accounted for with suitable cover-ups, and in conjunction with media blackouts, and any civilians having witnessed an overt display of effects are to be brainwashed via popular news stations and related sources. Disinformation, city blackouts. Could this Keter phenomenon be related to the UFO mysteries NASA's still hiding? Sounds pretty similar, no?
Number 5 on this list is Big Charlie. This is one of Trever Henderson's creations that is guaranteed to be an SCP. It's known as SCP-4158 by the SCP Foundation. The Trever Henderson wiki says, Big Charlie is a large mammal-like creature. It resembles some sort of cattle, yet at the same time it has a beak-like protrusion on the tip of its mouth. Its body is so skinny that you can see its rib cage. It also has a thick dark mane that goes from its head to the back of the creature. Its eyes appear to be foggy, which might indicate that the creature is blind, though in most depictions he does have normal eyes. Its legs are very lengthy compared to its body, and it seems as if its legs can barely support its weight. Big Charlie is around 20 to 30 feet tall. Now, one thing that the Trever Henderson wiki doesn't mention that the SCP Foundation does is that Big Charlie is apparently always getting bigger. They say SCP-4158 is constantly growing in size and weight. As such, excess mass must be sheared off every week. Testing has shown that limiting the diet of SCP-4158 does not limit its growth. Additional testing has shown that any meat that has been removed from SCP-4158 does not display the same constant growth. The meat produced by SCP-4158 is USDA utility grade beef and has shown no anomalous properties. Despite this, the resulting meat is to be incinerated as a cautionary measure. It's currently believed that this creature was either born like this or came from a meat processing plant where some type of accident occurred. Either way though, neither of those things properly explain why it is the way that it is and how it continues to grow. It is currently locked up in the SCP Foundation and, as I mentioned, constantly has excess meat shaved away from its body. I can't imagine that it likes that too much, but it's the only thing that we can do to stop it from growing completely out of proportion. In all honesty, I'm not sure why they don't just put the poor thing out of its misery though, because I can't imagine that being locked up and having pieces of your body sliced off all the time is a really good or fun existence. science. Number 4 on this list is SCP-173. So this is also definitely an SCP from Trever Henderson, but it actually didn't originate from him. Izumi Kato is a really good Japanese artist who first created this SCP. Trever Henderson was wowed by his artwork and wanted to give it a go, adding his Henderson spin to the art. The Trever Henderson wiki says, move to Site 19, 1993. Origin is, as of yet, unknown. It is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. The object cannot move while within a direct line of sight. Line of sight must not be broken at any time with SCP-173. Personnel assigned to enter container are instructed to alert one another before blinking. Object is reported to attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull or by strangulation. In the event of an attack, personnel are to observe Class 4 hazardous object containment procedures. Personnel report sounds of scraping stone originating from within the container when no one is present inside. This is considered normal, and any change in this behavior should be reported to the acting HMCL supervisor on duty. The reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of feces and blood. Origin of these materials is unknown. The enclosure must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis. So basically you either stare at this thing, who is sweating out feces and blood, or you die. Trever Henderson has a sick mind, man, but this is just a lot. I guess that's why he was so drawn to, well, drawing it. My dude just can't stay away from the blood and gore, and this SCP definitely fits the bill. Number 3 on this list is the Gray Thing. The Gray Thing isn't one of Trevor's best known creatures, but let me tell you, it belongs in the SCP universe. The Trever Henderson wiki says, the Gray Thing is a creature with gray skin, no hair, and a wicked smile. Its body can hardly be seen in the photo, but we assume it's humanoid. The Gray Thing is always found wearing a black robe. The Gray Thing was a man about to die of old age, but right before he could die, he had a vision of a strange entity who offered a new life as a monster. The man decided to take the deal since he didn't want to die, but the entity didn't mention that as a monster, the man would gain a new evil personality. So the entity made him into a Gray Thing. All the Gray Thing wants to do is kill people. It goes around the world using its abilities to deceive and kill. The Gray Thing can hover, force people to laugh using magic, create magical darkness, go invisible, teleport, create illusionary duplicates of itself, cause fear, slow people down, detect humans, go into people's dreams, and cause psychic damage using its smile. We are talking about an evil gray creature who literally just wants to kill people, and he wants to do it by deceiving them and messing with their mind. Yeah. Pretty sure this would fit right in with the SCP universe. In fact, I'm surprised it's not already with them. Remind me to stay away from any old age homes where the old people are starting to look suspiciously gray. Number 2 on this list is the man with the upside down face. This is right up there as one of Trevor's most dangerous creatures. The Trever Henderson wiki says, the man with the upside down face is an unnerving creature created by horror artist Trever Henderson. His ability to sneak around unseen to feed off of people's negativity makes him one of the eeriest creatures in Trevor's long list of monsters. He is also able to cause disasters, make people violent, levitate, teleport, and to top it all off, he is one of the most intelligent creatures that Trever has ever made. All of these perks makes him one of the most feared and dangerous cryptid in the mythos. This guy has killed people. Like, hundreds of people. Natural disasters and other atrocities have all been committed by his hand. He and our next entry are both ranked 10 on the Trever Henderson pain scale by Trever himself, meaning that he really is the worst of the lot. And number 1 on this list is Cartoon Cat. Cartoon Cat is one of Trevor's most famous creatures, and it could totally be in the SCP universe. The Trever Henderson wiki says Cartoon Cat appears as a tall, tall, anthropomorphic, cartoonish black, feline-like creature with a slender body and white beady eyes with pupils that can presumably dilate sometimes, and it also has a gray nose. His gloves are white and very similar to that of a typical 30s cartoon character with 3 black line patterns on each glove. His teeth are bloodstained, affixed under a red set of bloody gums. The creature doesn't appear to have feet for its legs. Instead, it only possesses a set of footless, sharp legs. The arms are disproportionately long, and while its size varies, the height of Cartoon Cat can reach that of a 2-story building. Cartoon Cat is so malevolent, he is considered the most evil and malevolent creature in the mythos, even exceeding the man with the upside down face, despite his love for misery and negativity and putting his face upside down only to pervert our expectations of how a human is put together. Cartoon Cat was implied to commit atrocities way more heinous than what any other creature has done. He is at the highest rank of the pain malevolence scale used by Trever to rank the creatures by malevolence along with the man. So the Cartoon Cat is pretty freaking bad, guys. This creature is able to distort the laws of physics and move itself around like it would in a cartoon world. Apparently he can break reality and his powers know literally no bounds. Everything I have read about this freaking cat says that it could totally be in the SCP world. Also, a lot of people have done videos breaking down who would win in a fight, the SCP Foundation monsters or Trever Henderson, and Cartoon Cat is always Trevor's most fearsome monster who puts up the best fight. Number 5 on this list is the Web Kraken. The Web Kraken is the first member of a subgroup called the Misty Guests. The Misty Guests are a part of the race of giants, and even though all giants have this ability to a certain extent, these giants are especially apt at producing a thick mist that surrounds them. The Trever Henderson wiki says, from what we're able to see in the image, it has up to 11 varyingly thick legs that have a single joint that bends surprisingly early on, leading to a much longer lower legs. The appearance of its feet are currently unknown. Its big, thick body is all red. All of the creature's legs have a meeting point at a large, oval-shaped epicenter, presumably the creature's body or head. Underneath this head emanates a strange red glow. This could possibly indicate where its mouth is, or perhaps the part of the body it uses to create its signature webs. Strangely, we do not see any sort of abdomen or other body area of the creature besides the head mentioned above, which gives more of an appearance of a cephalopod. We cannot know for sure as we're unable to see the full head of the creature, only the underside of it. Aside from its impressive size and magnitude, the Web Kraken does not have any clear abilities that are explicitly told or noticeable. The red underside of its head may give us a clue to what its abilities are, however. Given the creature's spider and octopus-like appearance, it may be able to excrete some sort of substance or material from this orifice, like an ink or web that it uses for offensive and defensive purposes. Another possibility that can also coincide with the previous one is that the gaping red hole we see in the image is its mouth. This could allow it to easily devour a human and even a large vehicle whole. We're talking about a giant land octopus that creates a super thick mist wherever it goes, can swallow a car whole, and can also probably spring webs or do some other creepy stuff. The fact that this isn't already in the SCP Foundation is honestly a tad bit shocking. Number 4 in this list is the Chicken Ghost. Okay, so this guy is just as derpy as he is creepy, but I still think that he should be in the Foundation. It's a humanoid-like creature that is really spindly. He's only supposed to be like 100 pounds, even though he's 6.5 feet tall. As we can see in the picture of him, he's clutching an egg right by his heart. This egg is thought to be that of a chicken, and he is protecting it. It isn't just this one egg he protects though. You see, one name for him is the Chicken Ghost, but the other and probably more accurate name for him is the God of Chickens. Yeah, this is it guys, the sacred god of chickens. He is said to guard and protect all things poultry based. Now I know that sounds pretty stupid, and I mean it kind of is, but I still think he needs to be part of the SCP Foundation. First of all, this definitely wouldn't be the weirdest creature in the Foundation by a long shot. And second, maybe he doesn't look threatening on the surface, but he really could be. In 2020, it was estimated that there were 33 billion chickens in the world. In 2020, there were also just a bit more than 7.5 billion people in the world, meaning that for every human, there are about 4 chickens. So let's say this chicken god decides to wage war against the humans. He would have 33 billion soldiers at his disposal to our 7.5 billion. Let me ask you, do you think that you can fight off 4 chickens if they all attacked you at once? I'm sure that some of us could, but I bet that some of us wouldn't be able to. I do think that humans would win the war between human and chicken if there ever was one, but there would definitely be some serious casualties suffered on our side too. Either way, because of his godlike abilities, I think he belongs in the SCP Foundation. Number 3 on this list is the precursor to the First World War. Yeah, that's actually what this Trever Henderson creature is called, guys. The name is a bit misleading here though, because we aren't talking about the First World War that most of us are familiar with. They're actually talking about the first war between humans and giants. A long time ago, this was the only giant on the planet. The giants, by the way, are a group of Trever Henderson creatures, and for a while this was the only one. There was a war between this giant and the humans. This war lasted for 3 years, and there are some variations on how it ended. Some people believe that the precursor to the First World War was actually killed, but most believe that eventually the two sides came to a truce. The humans realized that as more giants popped up, they would not stand a chance and learned to live in harmony. Whatever the true history of this creature is, I think it would be an awesome addition to the SCP Foundation. This giant is said to be 1,500 feet tall and could deliver some horribly devastating blows in a single hit. Apparently most giants can produce a mist around them as they move around the world, and this one is no different. It's also believed that this creature's eyesight is far superior to humans and may even have some infrared capabilities. If it truly wanted to, this beast could easily level an entire city and probably put up a decent fight against all of humanity. And considering this is the granddaddy of the giants race, I imagine that he could summon the other giants to fight alongside him. In which case, I think you could make a strong argument for how humans would stand absolutely no chance at all. We should probably have him enter the SCP Foundation and have some professionals keeping an eye on him. Number 2 on this list is the Dummy. The Dummy is a character that I've actually talked about on this channel before. We had a series a little while ago looking at some Trever Henderson characters that I thought needed their own horror film. The Dummy was definitely one of them. I also think that this weird looking thing needs to be part of the SCP Foundation too. This is one of the most deadly creatures on this list because it literally excretes death. The Trever Henderson wiki writes, it can produce a powerful aura that kills living things around it and has a rot-inducing touch that can cause humans to rot. Causes all living organisms to die around it like the effects of radiation. Possibly able to just cause bad luck all the way up to breaking reality and other ailments like many monsters can do. A rot-inducing touch. Yeah, that is a big no thank you from me. This thing is literally just walking death, and it likes to kill humans as well. This is tailor-made to be part of the Foundation, and I'd be way happier if it was. Number 1 on this list is the Wandering Faith. This creature has all the makings of something in the SCP Foundation if you ask me. The Trever Henderson wiki says, the Wandering Faith is one of the most known members of the Giants, the group of titanic creatures that roam the Earth in a separate universe from other cryptids. Since this is the case, this means that the Wandering Faith arrived on Earth via the summoning of a second moon, presumably by the moon worshippers. It also likely appeared prior to the aggressive period of the Giants due to the first few weather reports seemingly show the creature to be relatively friendly, but getting more active in the later weather reports. Like other giants of similar features, the Wandering Faith is not very aggressive or intentionally destructive, with their only goal being to collect certain chosen humans to ascend into salvation based on their worthiness. Aside from its destructive and clearly capable size, the Wandering Faith is able to grab multiple humans at once in order to ascend them using its extendable tendrils that hang from its head-neck area. It also appears to have very thick and wrinkly skin, not unlike a large mammal. This would serve as moderate protection from attacks from human weapons and artillery. So I think one of my biggest questions with this thing is, how do we know that we're ascending to salvation? If you ask me, this creature looks a hell of a lot like that one big shadow beast in the second season of Stranger Things. It looks evil, it looks like it's out to get me, and it doesn't look like the type of creature I want to mess with. So why is it that we think this thing is going to send us to salvation or heaven or wherever it's going to take us? In my opinion, there is a much higher likelihood that the giant walking tornado thing is going to mess you up rather than take you somewhere nice. Granted, I could be wrong though, and maybe getting sucked up by this creature is a good thing, but then the question is, what does it do to the people that don't worship it? I think any way you slice this, somebody is getting annihilated by the giant godlike storm creature. Oh, and also it's roughly 1.5 kilometers tall and weighs almost 2 million tons. I think I'd feel a lot more comfortable if the SCP Foundation was doing something about this thing.
In at number 5 we have SCP-470, Abandoned Office Building. This SCP appears to be a large abandoned office building and has had no registered owner for years. The building was abandoned after the collapse of the corporation that used to house this building. The structure is 7 floors and is in a state of disrepair as it hasn't seen any sort of life since it was abandoned. SCP-470 is known for its rooms to internally shift and become other locations that have been abandoned for a great amount of time. These outside locations appear within SCP-470 all have to have no human interaction or observation for 20 to 30 years. The rooms in this building exist both in their original physical location and within 470 at the same time. The locations that appear in 470 will flicker from time to time as they are unstable. It has been observed that one can remove a room from 470 by increasing the levels of human activity at the original physical location of the room that is manifesting. The longer the area has little to no human interaction, the stronger its connection with 470 is. At the beginning of the shift, rooms are only able to be manifested into 470 if they have absolutely no human activity. Though after long periods of abandonment, rooms are able to be manifested with as many as 14 people inside. The dangerous part about this SCP is that the rooms within it do not always originate in our human reality or dimension. Some of these rooms are constructed of non-terrestrial elements. No items or people are to enter or exit 470 or the external containment area without government approval. Additionally, anyone that is to enter must be equipped with a PSD tracking bug and be a part of groups in no less than 20 at all times to prevent any issues when observing 470. In at number 4 we have SCP-1730, Abandoned Building again. This SCP is known to be a large complex structure that is 15 kilometers northwest of the US-Mexico border. 1730 was discovered on June 5th and when it was found was in a severe state of disrepair as it was left abandoned for an extended period of time. It is also important to note that due to the low survival rate of individuals who have come in contact with 1730, it is possible that it had been previously discovered but unreported. Inside 1730 there was classified documents that supported the theory that the building was once Foundation Site 13 and originally located near Alaska. Upon discovering 1730 it was clearly abandoned, yet the site power generated continued to operate in a damaged state with multiple fuel leaks and fires throughout the facility. This resulted in power failures and hindering exploration and rescue missions. The origin of this SCP is still unknown, as is what happened within the building. It is believed that human survivors existed deep in the lower basement level of the facility. This is because there are messages written in English throughout the basement with warnings such as danger and what happened to Site 13. Furthermore, there were many entries of data that were collected by remaining functional terminals. The collected data consisted of site layout, staff information, and contained anomalies. The containment procedures is very specific for this SCP and consists of a 2-kilometer circular perimeter, with a quarantine zone that is established 1 kilometer from the SCP. People that enter 1730 must use hazardous contact preparation measures, including a reinforced airtight suit. When exiting the quarantined area, one must submit through decontamination protocols that are administered by the security staff. If failed to pass the quarantine protocol, individuals are held for further decontamination, or in the case of decontamination being unfeasible, termination is to be expected. In at number 3 we have SCP-1983, Doorway to Nowhere. 1983 is a K class object under SCP Foundation's containment. It was combined by SCP-1983-1 and SCP-1983-2. 1983-1 is a 1-story farmhouse in Wyoming. It was abandoned in 1968 after a series of rituals were allegedly performed there by a cult, and was discovered after a series of mysterious deaths in the surrounding area of a Wyoming county. The front door of SCP-1983-1, when opened, appears to contain a spatial anomaly. Neither matter nor light has been observed to exit at the doorway. 1983-1 is accessible through other entrances including windows, the back door, and entrances cut into the back of 1983-1. However, the front room does not appear to exist inside of 1983-1. Doors that should lead to the front room instead lead to other doors inside the building. Measurements of the inside and outside of 1983-1 are inconsistent. Holes cut through the interior walls of 1983-1 that should lead to the front room lead instead to the outside walls around the front of 1983-1 but stop 3 meters on either side of the doorway. At some point the doors stopped leading to darkness and instead led to their natural rooms, which contain the remains of every agent or Class D sent in. Found in the abandoned building are 1983-2, which are creatures that appear as humanoids but are entirely black in color. Additionally, they are highly aggressive and will engage any human on sight. When an instance of 1983-2 meets a human, their animal instinct kicks in, and in a matter of seconds the human meets their fate. 1983 is presumed to have been neutralized by D14134, who was posthumously awarded the Foundation Star. Due to information contained in document 1983-15, it is believed that the anomaly was not localized as previously believed, and renewed resources have gone into attempting to locate similar incidents. Coming in at number 2 we have SCP-087, the staircase. Located in an abandoned building, the doorway leading to 087 is reinforced steel with an electric lock mechanism. Additionally, the door that leads to the staircase has been disguised to resemble a janitorial closet consistent with the design of the building, deterring people to enter. The high intense security system in an abandoned stairwell is for good reason though, as this SCP is very dangerous. 087 is an unlit platform of descending stairs consisting of 13 steps before reaching a semicircular platform. The design of this SCP is to limit subjects to have a limited range when coming in contact with 087. A light source is required for any subjects exploring 087 as there are no lighting fixtures or windows present. Lighting sources brighter than 75 watts have shown to be ineffective, as 087 seems to absorb excess light. Subjects report audio recordings confirm the distress vocalizations from which is theorized to be from a human. These distressing calls for help is estimated to be located far below the initial platform. However, any attempts to descend the staircase have failed to bring subjects closer to the source. The depth of descent calculated from exploration 4, the longest exploration, is shown to be far beyond both the possible structure of both the building and geological surroundings. And at this time it's unknown if 087 has an endpoint. This seemingly endless staircase is cloaked in darkness, leaving exploration tips not for the faint-hearted. Many people that have chosen to explore the inside of 087 have disappeared inside and never returned. It's unknown if 087 is the cause of their disappearances, though it is most likely. 087 is aware of the Foundation's presence, as it will stare into discarded video equipment. Individuals who manage to escape 087 and get back to the top of the staircase often have long-lasting mental issues and physical fatigue. In every documented exploration of 087, every subject has witnessed 0871 appear nearby. It will either stare at them from the darkness, causing mental degradation, or lunge at or chase them through the stairwell in an extremely violent and aggressive manner. That's my worst fear. I hate going upstairs. I don't want to be chased. Do you feel that fear when you go up a set of stairs? That someone's just going to start running? No, it's that someone's just all of a sudden going to start running behind you and chasing you. Yeah, but that's the fear. You can only go so fast up a set of stairs. Due to the results of the final exploration, no one is permitted access to 087. Knowing all of this, and the many individuals who failed to come out of 087 after no exploration, you now know that the door is sealed for a reason. And finally, in at number 1 we have SCP-563, Abandoned Plot of Farmland. Known as the abandoned plot of farmland in China, 563 is where the other SCP livestock were recovered. The facility of 563 has since been discovered, been modified for the factory farming of animals that weigh up to several tons. 563 is equipped to handle orange poultry, but specifically SCP poultry. At the time of recovering 563, the livestock of 563A, for instance, was found. Several SCP species of dinosaurs and related reptiles that are native to China and Mongolia in the Jurassic and Cretaceous period. When alive, 563A were farmed to create instances of 563B. 563B is the prehistoric food line of products made made by a company known as the Ancient Dragon Culinary Corporation. Records of this company have been found, but the locations of their main office and the institutions involved in the production of 563B has not yet been established. 563B products are sold in several East Asian countries, but have been discovered in some supermarket chains in the USA. Various instances of 563B include dragon bone tea, ancient dragon velociraptor noodles, and Kentucky fried Tyrannosaurus. Posthumous examination of all 563A instances found that up to 79% of the individuals found had prion in their system prior to their death. Testing on this prion found it to be similar to prion that causes Kuru, suggesting that 563A instances had been fed or were feeding on the meat of the same species. Notably, most species of raptor found on site were immune to this prion. The containment procedures for the 563 consistent of all carcasses of 563A have been removed from the farmland, within minimal containment of 563 required. It is to be surrounded by a perimeter of motion trackers at every 3 meters to track any sort of movement.